During Friday morning's court proceedings, which was broadcast live on social media, the court heard that Holder's appearance was in relation to an accusation of her overstaying her time in the U.S. However, when her attorney Joyce Booth informed the court that she has been married to a U.S. citizen for the past 2 years and shares a home with her husband, the judge questioned the prosecutor whether the marriage should not have taken over the overstaying issue. Atwell Holder's attorney informed the court that an immigrant petition for a spouse of a U.S. citizen has already been approved, but the adjustment of status is pending. In the bond application, the attorney also informed the court that Atwell Holder has no criminal record and no other matter that should prevent her from being granted bond and was not a flight risk. The court also ordered that Atwell Holder's attorney submit copies of the I-485 application with the court no later than April 18, 2025. The prosecutor agreed with the information, saying that it matches the records at her disposal. She did not object to bond and left it up to the court. At one point, Atwell Holder's attorney said she could not understand why her client was arrested and is before the court. The judge said he was granting bond in the sum of $7,500 US and thereby ordered Atwell Holder's release on the payment of that bond. Having been informed that she lives in Brooklyn, New York, with her husband, the judge also ordered that the matter be transferred to that district. Over the past 2 weeks, key opposition politicians and supporters assembled at Square of the Revolution to protest Atwell's detainment and called for her release. Tianako reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Law enforcement and the Guyana Revenue Authority are ready to act on sanctions instituted by the United States on the Mohammeds soon, says the Attorney General. Here is more. There is word from Attorney General Anil Nandla that local police and the Guyana Revenue Authority are prepared to proceed, perhaps to formally press charges against businessman Nazar Shel Mohammed and his son Azruddin Mohammed.
They are going to act. They have formally communicated that to me or to the government of Guyana, and I presume that they will be acting anytime now.
Nandlal said it is true that the United States of America provided the requested information to the government of Guyana on why Nazar Mohammed, Azruddin Mohammed, and the former permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Mate Thomas, were sanctioned by that government.
The DOJ has responded, and that's what I'm saying. We have received a large volume of information. The process is still ongoing.
Mr. Nandlal said the U.S. and Guyana were continuing to exchange information on the allegations against the Mohammeds and May Thomas.
We are supplying information and they are supplying information. It's a fluid process, but we did make a commitment as a government since last year that actions would be taken by the relevant state agencies in Guyana.
Permanent Secretary May Thomas was also sanctioned for her role in public corruption. The United States Department of Treasury said that Thomas used her office while serving at the Ministry of Home Affairs to offer benefits to the Mohammeds that included contracts, licenses for weapons, and passports. Will Thomas, who is also an executive of the People's Progressive Party Civic, face the full brunt of the law in Guyana?
I cannot speak for the law enforcement agencies nor the Guyana Revenue Authority, but I have no doubt that their approach will be one that would be objective and would be evidence-driven. I have no reason to think otherwise.
On June 11, 2024, the United States Treasury Department imposed sanctions on the Mohammeds over the alleged massive smuggling of gold. Allegations against the Mohammeds include defrauding the government of US $50 million in taxes from smuggled gold, as well as bribing public officials. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. On HGP Nightly News, we tell you now that presidential candidate of the Guyana Teachers Union, Coretta MacDonald, has won the right to contest the GTU's presidency. On Friday, the High Court ruled that MacDonald can hold the offices of General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union and that of a Member of Parliament for the People's National Congress Reform. MacDonald and second Vice President Julian Cambridge are contesting for the post of President of the GTU. It was Cambridge and current president of the GTU, Dr. Mark Light, who argued that MacDonald cannot legally hold the offices of GTU General Secretary, President of the GTU, and that of a Member of Parliament. The judge also ruled that Light and Cambridge should resume their roles of President and the second Vice President, and that their suspensions are null and void. The rulings were handed down by Justice Nicola Pierre. Light and Cambridge were represented by Kamal Ramkaran, while MacDonald was represented by UC Anderson and Darren Wade. In an invited comment, Ms. MacDonald said she has instructed her attorneys not to apply for any legal costs against Light and Cambridge, since she is determined to overturn the teachers' wages deal signed by Light and Cambridge. Our developing story, leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, is willing and prepared to step aside from presidential candidature to allow for a third candidate to lead any coalition government into the upcoming elections. You'll have more details in this report. As talks continue between the People's National Congress Reform and the Alliance for Change on the possibility of coalescing for the upcoming general elections, leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, told media operatives on the sidelines of a picket action that he is prepared to step aside and allow for a consensus candidate to lead any coalition into elections.
And the Alliance for Change and I personally am prepared to step aside from presidential candidature in favor of a consensus third candidate who can unite the opposition in the interest of the country.
PNCR leader Aubrey Norton has already said he will be the presidential candidate of any coalition entered into by the party for the 2025 general elections. Asked whether the PNCR has agreed to a consensus candidate, Mr. Hughes responded.
You think you might have gotten that impression or that agreement from the PNCR?
No, I have not had any direct communication or contact with the PNCR. As you know, both sides have very, very competent negotiators, and I certainly have not been involved in the negotiations. Well, I've given them a mandate, I've given them a scope, and they have a discretion. And until they come back and report to me finally, I am not going to offer any comment.
Hughes said the two parties remain locked in discussions with a March 31st, 2025 deadline for a deal. The overall objective must be to dislodge the People's Progressive Party Civic at the upcoming elections, according to Hughes.
We cannot afford at this time in our history not to have a united opposition, and we believe that where we can find that consensus candidate who can unite all of us and take this country forward, we cannot afford at this point in time not to be successful.
On February 14, 2015, the PNCR coalesced with the Alliance for Change, and the coalition went on to defeat the People's Progressive Party Civic at the general elections that year. The presidential candidate was David Granger of the Partnership for National Unity, and the prime ministerial candidate was Moses Nagamutu of the Alliance for Change. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. This is the HGP Nightly News. Stay with us. There is more news ahead.
Welcome to SNL Electrical Inc., where lighting and electrical needs are met with expertise and style. From the latest in electrical lamps to durable cables, circuit breakers, panels, we have it all. Illuminate your space with our elegant chandeliers, stunning crystal lights, and versatile pole lights. Looking to upgrade your comfort? Explore top-of-the-line AC units and our diverse selections of stylish styles. Visit us at 170-180 Thomas Street, Kitty, Georgetown. Discover a solution that not only lights up your world but transforms it. Call us on telephone number 226-3018 or 223-1634. SNL Electrical Inc. powering your life with elegance, quality, and care.
70% ethyl alcohol, Mighty Foam Hand Sanitizer eliminates 99.99% of all germs and even moisturizes in the process, leaving your skin clean and hydrated. Mighty Foam Hand Sanitizer. How do you stay clean?
Krishna Rock Establishment. No job is too small or too large. We specialize in all types of fabricating, machinery, excavator repairs, rice fill pumps, and hydraulic hoses. Visit us at Lot 113, Block CC Monrepo, East Coast, Demerara, or call 220-9624, 616-9416, or 619-7880. At Krishna Rock Establishment, no job is too small or too large.
Welcome back to the HGP Nightly News. Open the files, not just the curtains. Secrecy breeds corruption were just some of the placards displayed as citizens picketed the office, which is also the home of the Commissioner of Information. More details in this report. Since retired Court of Appeal Judge and former Attorney General Charles Ramson Sr. has been reappointed to the position of Commissioner of Information after being dismissed from the post in 2017 by the then APNU-AFC government, there seems to have been an impediment to the flow of information. Citizens are adamant that Justice Ramson is undermining transparency. In light of that, a picketing exercise was staged outside the office of the Commissioner of Information, which is also the home of the Commissioner of Information. Prominent attorney-at-law Christopher Ram declared that access to information is a right, not a privilege.
But we've never had any free flow of information. Requests are often evaded by all kinds of spurious and strange and perhaps stupid explanations. So we thought it's time that, because we think that information is important for the exercise of democracy.
Editor-in-Chief of Stabrook News, Anand Prasad, spoke of the challenges the media corps, particularly the Stabrook News, faces when information is requested from Justice Ramson.
We've had the same sort of feedback. You have to address me in a certain way, and the responses have not been very encouraging. So we've not had a good experience at all with the office.
The Access to Information Act was passed in 2011. The Act also provides for the laying of annual reports in the National Assembly no later than 9 months after the end of the fiscal year. President of the Transparency Institute of Guyana, Frederick Collins, was also on the picket line.
On autopilot, there must be certain reports generated by the system. What we have here is a situation where even when you ask for information you don't get, you're sent to wrong circle. So those are my comments at this point in time.
Columnist G.H.K. Lal believes that the talk about transparency in Guyana has no real meaning since access to information is denied.
Is stonewalled, is skirted around, then we can't be talking about transparency. We can't be holding people accountable. We can't be getting the kind of accountability that the president himself spoke about. So that is why I am out here as a citizen, as a contributor to the media, as you know.
The Commissioner of Information, Justice Ramson, who runs his office from his East Street Georgetown home, did not give reporters access to him, but only hid behind his curtains throughout the picket. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. The joint opposition has refuted claims made by the visiting United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the construction of the recently completed Heroes Highway. More details from Daisy Richards.
In a lot of these countries, the Chinese companies go in, they do a terrible job. Not a bad job, a terrible job. I just came from Guyana where we had to drive on a road the Chinese built. Were you were on the trip with us?
Yep.
Or did you have to go on this road?
Yeah.
Okay, we almost all had concussions. What we want is for countries to have an alternative to that. If you're going to build a road, I want you to have a real road They were better off with the dirt road than the road we were just on. To what we think is bad work by the Chinese that never finishes on time, is always over budget, and brings their own workers, don't even hire the locals.
That was United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaking during a joint press briefing with Suriname's President Chan Santoki on Wednesday. However, the joint opposition spoke out on Friday, refuting the comments made by Rubio. Leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, called on the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration to accept responsibility for the poor construction of the Heroes Highway. He pointed out that while the opposition fully agrees with the comments made by the Secretary of State, it believes false information was filtered down to U.S. officials.
Whether it is the government or not, the government must take full responsibility for the construction disaster they call Heroes Highway, and correct the misinformation that is in the public domain.
The Alliance for Change in a press statement said, too, that the incumbent administration has made false claims that the Heroes Highway was constructed by the then APNU AFC government when it was constructed under the current regime. They also pointed out that the Chinese were not involved in the construction of the road, but, quote, the reality, however, is that the project was carried out by individuals closely tied to the PPPC government who delivered substandard work, unquote. Meanwhile, in wake of Rubio's comments, the Chinese embassy in Georgetown on its Facebook page Friday released a short statement with several photographs supporting work being successfully undertaken here. The statement said, quote, China has always put China-Guyana friendship first. It added that, quote, we honor our commitment with concrete actions. As a matter of fact, China has participated fully at the biggest economy and social transformation in the history of Guyana. Facts and figures speak louder than anything else, unquote. For HGP Nightly News, I am Daisy Richards.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio vowed to establish a security intelligence and surveillance system with Guyana to share information on illegal entries and potentially harmful immigrants. Antonio Day has more.
If we have information that someone has entered your country who has bad intentions, we want to be able to share that with your government, because you don't want that. You don't want those, if we have information on a Trinidad gang member from Venezuela.
That was United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio during a press conference on Thursday at State House Georgetown. Rubio committed to working with Guyana on the issue of illegal deportation, as many non-nationals continue to flee the nation due to its vast opportunities.
I think that's a problem for you as well. I mean, obviously, because of the combination of your growing economy, labor needs, and your geography, you have been a place where a lot of people have come in. And I think you want it to be the right people.
Like Guyana and any other country in the world, the United States is plagued by illegal migration, and Secretary of the State has defended his position on these constant occurrences. He also confirmed that the U.S. has been actively revoking visas for individuals involved in unlawful activities, especially those quasi-students or visitors who have been participating in disruptive protests.
So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave. Every country in the world has a right to decide who comes in as a visitor and who doesn't.
Meanwhile, as the country faces a persistent labor shortage, President Irfan Ali emphasized the importance of equitable distribution of both foreign and domestic labor.
We have reassured our partner that we will continue to ensure all international and local labor laws are adhered to in the hiring of regional and international labor.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Guyana's Minister of Foreign Affairs Hugh Todd on Thursday signed a memorandum of understanding to collaboratively address regional issues, among them narcotics trafficking and transnational organized crime. I'm Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Antonio, for your reporting. Stay with us. There is more news ahead.
Planning a cleanup? We can help. Sevon's Waste Management skip bins can be provided for home renovation projects, yard cleanup, or construction project. It's simple. Step 1, give us a call. Step 2, we put down the bin. Step 3, load it up with all of your junk. Step 4, we take it away. That's simple. Bins are also available in various sizes, so there is no job that is too big or too small. Call Sevon's Waste Management today at 218-1455.
Smart Minds Educational Institute, offering preschool, nursery, and primary levels. Finally, a school that is every parent's dream. Located at 69 Crow Street, offering academic excellence, trained qualified teachers, small class sizes, personalized care, and one-to-one attention for your little ones. So if your child is for preschool, nursery, or primary level, come to Smart Mind, located at 69 Crow Street, or call 231-4885 or 600-9229 to enroll now.
It's a new day with Shilling Oil. A unique blend of natural oils to help ease and soothe the day-to-day discomforts of life. Get relief from muscle and joint pain, headaches, and congestion. Shilling Oil lets you get back to the things you love doing most. Water relief with Shilling Oil. Distributed by Massey Distribution.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Welcome back. Antonio Day tells us that the impact of President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs on Chinese vessels will be discussed in Washington. That's according to the United States Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
Regional leaders have raised concerns regarding a new U.S. tariff on Chinese products, which is expected to increase prices for American and other consumers. A 10% tariff on all Chinese goods took effect the day after President Donald Trump paused tariffs against Mexico and Canada for 30 days. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, while addressing the media during a visit here on Thursday, promised to address these concerns about the impact of President Trump's proposed tariffs.
Look, the goal the president has in doing so is we need to have an ability to build ships in this world that don't just come from China. Okay, I think it's just dangerous to have one country in the world building all the ships.
He also spoke to the heavy dependency on China, who has the monopoly on shipbuilding.
And we don't want a war, but I mean, they're not going to build ships for us if we get in trouble, right? So we need to have alternatives to Chinese shipping. We're trying to create a market and a demand for alternatives to Chinese shipping construction.
Rubio stated that many leaders of the Caribbean Community CARICOM countries have voiced their concerns over China's dominance. The Secretary of State explained that the main idea of President Trump's tariffs are to seek other alternatives apart from being heavily dependent on China.
The region would have raised it also, but the Secretary Rubio is, as he said, would take this back and to see whether there can be any special initiative for the region, given our specific circumstances.
Rubio admitted that the United States erred when it was deindustrialized and allowed all industries to leave their country and seek partners elsewhere. He said corrective measures will be taken in that regard. Meanwhile, Guyanese head of state Irfan Ali, in a nod with Rubio, informed that CARICOM leaders are gravely concerned about these recent developments. I'm Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
The University of Guyana, together with Catalyst Plus and the Canadian High Commission, launched a climate, land, energy and water system initiative tailored to address challenges in Guyana. Dacia Richards is on this story.
The University of Guyana, in collaboration with Catalyst Plus and the Canadian High Commission on Friday, launched the Climate, Land, Energy and Water Systems CLUES model for Guyana. Vice-Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Professor Dr. Paloma Mohamed Martin, highlighted that the idea of the model is being introduced at a time when Guyana is trying to balance the oil and gas sector and agriculture.
I believe that it is fundamental and important to what we do as a country and how we navigate this space.
Canadian High Commissioner of Guyana, Sebastian Sigouin, in his remarks praised the initiative, saying access to education and challenges posed by climate change is critical.
That's really what this project is about. It's really a powerful tool that provides a comprehensive view of how climate, land, energy, and water interact and affect each other.
He added that various scenarios can be developed using the model to aid the decision-making process in addressing challenges like climate change, food security, and energy needs.
You can see the power that the CLUE initiative can have, because it will help the government of Guyana to make informed decisions, informed plans based on science, based on data. So no guesswork.
The launch followed the second CLUES training workshop supporting stakeholders enhance local capacity in sustainable resource management. The CLUES model, which is a data-driven approach to decision-making, was developed in partnership with the Simon Fraser University's Delta E+ and a research lab group in Canada. For HGP Nightly News, I am Daisy Richards.
To end our lead stories with the goal of combating tuberculosis in Guyana, the Ministry of Health on Thursday launched its updated clinical guidelines for healthcare practitioners. Find out more from Tiana Cole.
During the launch, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Narayan Singh, delivering the feature address, emphasized that with advancements in technology, treatment, and updated guidelines, tuberculosis management has evolved. While the treatment course is now shorter, TB remains a significant public health threat in Guyana. He added that TB is one of the diseases targeted for elimination by 2030, but achieving this goal requires substantial effort.
The launch of these new guidelines marks a renewed effort to strengthen our fight against TB and ensure that every person in Guyana who's affected by this disease receive the best possible care.
Dr. Singh explained that this handbook provides detailed instructions for medical professionals on treating latent TB in infants, children, and adults. It outlines proper medication dosage at different stages, the frequency and duration of treatment, schedules for initial and follow-up tests, and protocols for managing patients co-infected with HIV and TB.
We are taking a giant leap forward. We are not changing protocols, we are changing lives. We are ensuring that every person needs care, have access to it, and that no one will have to face TB alone.
The handbook also includes treatment guidelines for special populations, patient follow-up care, and information on TB treatment sites across Guyana. Also speaking at the launch, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony stated that over the past few years, the ministry has made significant progress in its TB program, leading to a reduction in cases.
You're seeing a significant drop. And that's not because the people with TB are dying. It's because we're actually managing them better. And we're curing them of their tuberculosis. And I think that's a good thing that we're able to do that with our program.
Dr. Anthony also commended the team for its efforts in developing the new guidelines.
Because one of the things with guidelines, we make good guidelines, and then we have problems with people not following the guidelines. So I hope that's not going to be the case here, right? Let's make sure that it's properly implemented.
As part of its strategic plan, the ministry is aiming for a 75% reduction in TB-related deaths and a 50% reduction in TB incidents by the end of 2025, based on its 2015 baseline figures. While the infection rate has significantly declined, the mortality rate remains unchanged. Tuberculosis is a contagious disease caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It spreads through airborne transmission when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or spits. According to the most recent recorded statistics from the ministry, TB remains one of the leading causes of mortality worldwide. In 2023, there were 1.2 million TB-related deaths globally. In Guyana, 520 people were diagnosed with TB, with 75.5% being men, 24.5% being women, and 1.7% being children. The country recorded 27 TB-related deaths that year. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Stay tuned for regional news.
Introducing Cool Kids 1 liter juice. Now with even more fun in every box. Choose from delicious apple grape, kiwi strawberry, or orange. Perfect for morning and afternoon time, the weekends, or any time at home. Packed with vitamins A, C, and E, it keeps you strong, healthy, and ready for fun. Cool Kids 1 liter. A huge juice for more fun and more saving. We're Cool Kids.
And these nice products I spoke with proper things. Peppies, you get the best and these things. Oh, no, bless up.
Okay. Pack up these things. Yellow, you put the things in the car.
Loving you is easy cause you're beautiful. Do-da-do-da-do. I love you, and you, and you, and you, and you. I love all of you.
Peppies, we put the pep back into your kitchen.
And you. I love Peppies.
You know, I've been thinking, since I moved over to the west side, this is the perfect location for put up a food stand.
Put up food stand here?
Yes, Officer Bling.
No, Granny, you can't put up no food stand here.
Why not?
Because the gas to energy pipeline.
Gas to energy? Why is that?
You can bring gas from offshore to region 3, that can turn into electricity and other things.
So what about if Granny put it up over there?
No, Granny, listen. This whole area here, from here to the West Bank, is considered the right of way. So nobody can build, plant, dig, or burn nothing here.
But what if I am?
No buts, Granny. Listen, you could get yourself or others hurt. Watch, you see this number here? You call it if you see anybody doing anything out of the way or doing anything they ain't supposed to be doing, like building, digging, or burning stuff on the right of way.
All right, grandson, I hear you.
Interested in honoring or paying tribute to a loved one, or just making a loved one feel special? HGP TV offers you all that and more. Air your birthday greetings, death announcements, and wedding anniversaries on HGP TV today. HGP TV offers affordable prices, convenience, and great services. Call us on 220-3660 or email us at sales@hgptv.com.
Good evening and welcome to Friday's edition of the Regional News. Prime Minister Stroti Young says U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has given assurance that the United States will not harm Trinidad and Tobago. He revealed this twice during his post-cabinet media conference as he opened up about a meeting with Rubio on Wednesday in Jamaica. Young hailed as a very good meeting with Rubio. He said he started the meeting by emphasizing that the U.S. is an ally of Trinidad and Tobago, but he also said Trinidad is the closest Caribbean nation to Venezuela. In the conversation, Rubio indicated he was pleased for the information Young provided on Dragon Gas deal. He said U.S. foreign policy is not meant to harm Trinidad and Tobago as it pertains to energy security. A majority of judges on Brazil's Supreme Court reviewing charges against former President Jair Bolsonaro on Thursday voted for him to stand trial for allegedly conspiring to overthrow the government after he lost a 2022 election. The first 3 members of the 5-judge panel voted to put Bolsonaro on trial. If found guilty in a trial expected later this year, Bolsonaro could face a lengthy prison sentence stretching over 2 decades. In his opening remarks on Wednesday, Justice Alexander de Moraes, who was overseeing the case, screened dramatic footage of Bolsonaro's supporters storming government buildings in violent scenes that unfolded just a week after the inauguration of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in January 2023. Bolsonaro, a far-right former army captain who served as Brazil's president from 2019 to 2022, is accused of 5 crimes including an alleged attempt to violently abolish the democratic rule of law. Moraes said that Bolsonaro led a quote-unquote a systemic effort to cast doubt on the electronic voting machines used in Brazil, part of its efforts to undermine the election he lost. U.S. Appeals Court on Thursday upheld a lower court's temporary block on the Trump administration's deportation of some Venezuelan immigrants under a little-used 18th century law. The decision by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. marks a defeat for Republican President Donald Trump, who argued U.S. District Judge 2-week ban on deportations under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act encroached on the executive authority to make national security decisions. A 3-judge panel voted 2-1 to uphold a block on deportations. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act on March 15 to swiftly deport alleged members of a Venezuelan gang, attempting to speed up removals with a law best known for its use in interim Japanese, Italian, and German immigrants during World War II. An ensuing legal battle over the move has heightened Trump's attempts to strong-arm the federal judiciary. The Trump administration allowed 2 planes already in the air to continue to El Salvador, where the U.S. handed 238 Venezuelan men over to Salvadorian authorities to be placed in the country's terrorism confinement center. And now for some international news. A magnitude 7.7 earthquake central struck Myanmar on Friday, killing at least 150 people. The U.S. Geological Survey said, with tremors reported as far away as neighboring Thailand and China. In Bangkok, around 1,000 kilometers from the epicenter, a high-rise building under construction collapsed, with Thai media saying 43 people were possibly buried alive. Analysis by the USGS showed the earthquake struck at a depth of about 10 km, with strong shaking near modern-day Myanmar's second-largest city. A second quake in the magnitude 6 range followed about 10 minutes later. Witnesses saw several buildings collapse in Madinley. Thank you for watching. I am Tiana Cole.
Melly Mel freed. U.S. judge grants social media activist $7,500 bond in immigration case. Orders her release. AFC leader in favor of a possible consensus third candidate says Guyana needs a unified opposition. Open the files, not just the curtains. Citizens picket the office of the Commissioner of Information. And joint opposition. Chinese embassy refutes Guyana's concussion road comments made by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Those are our major headlines. For these stories and more, please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.